My
All right.
schedule ended up being very different, but even better than I had originally expected.
Congratulations.
Thank
Because
you.
that's what happens when you release your need to have them happen in a certain way, is they often happen much better than you imagined.
So my question is,
Yes.
by practicing this over and over,
Yes.
will I continue to have episodes like this?
Why wouldn't you? Can you answer that question? Why wouldn't you?
Because the benefit is in the experience?
Because the benefit comes from your definition. So the question is, why would you define anything that happens in any other way other than beneficial so that you can experience the beneficial effect from it?
Okay.
So it's your choice, isn't it?
Yes.
So why would you choose anything else? A lot of the answers to all of your questions really comes down to having no other choice but the positive one. There just isn't any other choice for you. Therefore, why would you experience anything other than what is relevant for the choice that you made? You can't. You cannot experience what you're not the vibration of. So if you're constantly choosing the positive state, it's not possible for you to have any kind of a negative experience, or have an experience, more precisely, that you perceive as unfolding in a negative way. Because the experience can look the same. Because everything is neutral. It doesn't have built-in meaning. It does double duty. If you define it negatively, you will get a negative effect. If you define the very same thing positively, you will get a positive effect. That's how it works. What you put out is what you get back. So why choose anything but what you prefer to define it as? Even if you don't know the details of how it's going to serve you in a positive way, you can still know beyond a shadow of a doubt that it's going to serve you in a positive way, and therefore that's what you will experience, even if the experience is completely unexpected in form. It will still be positive because you said so. There is nothing in creation that will ever contradict you. You're the one who decides. You're the one who has been given the freedom to choose. And the universe says, I'll back you, whatever you say, because I support you unconditionally. Even to the degree that you choose to believe you are not unconditionally supported, I will support you in that belief too. That's how unconditionally supported you are. So the proof that you are supported unconditionally is that you're able to experience reality as if you're not supported unconditionally, because you're being supported in a negative belief that you're not supported. Therefore, if you're supported in the negative belief that you're not supported, why wouldn't you be supported in the belief that you are? Your choice. You get supported in what you believe to be true. It doesn't have a mind of its own. Make sense?
Makes perfect sense.
Does this help?
Oh, absolutely.
Why, thank you.
So I have a question there.
Yes.
When something happens
Yes.
and my thoughts begin to discriminate how I'm going to perceive that,
Yes.
I do have choices between positive thoughts and negative thoughts, or
Absolutely.
positive.
And remember that those positive thoughts and negative thoughts are generated by positive or negative belief systems. You have to have the belief first, or you can't have the feeling, and you can't have the thought, and you can't have the behavior. So if you have a behavior, if you have a thought, if you have a feeling, you can always trace the behavior, the thought, and the feeling back to a belief that's generating them. Because if you don't have a definition of something, you don't know what to think about it. You don't know how to feel about it. If I give you a word that you have no definition for and ask you how do you feel about it, you wouldn't have a clue because you have no definition. But once you have the definition, you go, now I know how to feel about that. Now I know what to think about that. Now I know how to behave about that idea because now you have a definition. So anytime you notice you may have a negative thought you don't prefer to have, use it as an opportunity to trace it back to what belief you must have that's generating that thought, and that will help you identify consciously the belief that may have been unconscious. And that's the whole point, because once you identify a belief that's negative, that's out of alignment with your true self, As soon as you identify it, will automatically appear to be nonsensical and illogical, and you'll drop it. If your behavior doesn't change after dropping it, then you haven't found the core belief. You've only found a secondary belief. And that's another thing that belief systems do. They'll surround themselves with secondary beliefs to make you think, oh, yes, I found the belief and let it go. Now I'm okay. And you haven't. And you can notice that in your behavior, in the way you see things. Oh, I'm still reacting to this idea negatively. That means I haven't found the true fundamental core belief. Oh, you sneaky little tricky thing, you. You fooled me into thinking that secondary belief was you, and it wasn't. But now I found you out because you cannot escape the fact that physical reality is a mirror and will always reflect back to me what I truly believe. So if I'm having a negative experience in some way, that means you're still lurking around. I'm going to find you. And I'm going to tell you that you can relax, that your job is done. Well done. You played a good game, but now you can relax. And I will now choose a different belief without invalidating what I don't prefer. I will keep it neutral and choose what I prefer without invalidating what I don't prefer, because everything is valid, everything is equal. It's just that you are no longer relevant for my journey. So thank you for bringing me to this point. Negative belief, I appreciate you, because without the darkness, I wouldn't have easily seen the light. So thank you for surrounding it with darkness so I can see the light more clearly. And that's how you move on. That's how you move forward. That's how you grow. Make sense?
Yes. How much effort?
Effort?
Okay.
How much effort do you want?
How much time? If I practice
Yes.
choosing positive outcomes over negative outcomes,
Yes.
do I actually have to spend a lot of time exploring the negative side, or is that if I don't choose to explore the negative thoughts, is that living in denial?
If you're not exploring them because you think you don't need to or out of fear, then yes, you could be in denial. Because why would you care what's there? Because you know you're always going to get a positive and beneficial effect from whatever you discover. So why would you need to make that differentiation? Isn't that saying that somehow I should be done with this? Isn't that a negative judgment call?
Yes.
So what do you care?
Okay.
Isn't it all exciting?
Absolutely.
Well, then who cares what it is? Remember, as we said, that's one of the tools of excitement. It reveals to you what may be within you that's not in alignment with your excitement, and that's cause for excitement. So it doesn't matter that you discover something that may be negative lurking within you, because the fact that you discovered it means you can let it go, and that's one more thing you can let go of that you do not need. Now, eventually in your lives, you may run out of negative things to let go of, and that's fine. But you will not let go of the process of letting go. What you will let go of after you run out of negative things to let go of is you will start letting go of things that are simply no longer relevant for your life, even though they might be positive. Yes?
Great. Yes, absolutely.
All right.
So let me ask you something about your society.
Yes.
In your society, did you as an individual
Yes.
have to disassociate yourself from the mass consciousness of the other people in your society? Did you have to go through that process?
In our society, the synchronicity operates at such a level that I am automatically dissociated from anything in the mass consensus that does not support my individuality, and therefore my individuality, as it is expressed, supports the mass consensus of our society that desires everyone to be the perfect individual that they are. Yes?
Yes.
That's how it works in my society. That's how it can work in your society. You're heading that way.
So we're headed that way.
If you weren't, we wouldn't be having these conversations, because we do not and cannot engage with vibratory realities that are too different from our own or not heading in the same direction. So this conversation is a positive sign. If you choose differently, you'll no longer be capable of finding us. Make sense?
Absolutely.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Hi, Bashar.
And you good day.
Welcome. My question is in regards to the volcano eruption, the Calbuco,
Yes.
that erupted on April 22nd.
Yes.
And then the earthquake that occurred in Nepal 3
Yes.
days later.
Yes, yes, yes.
Were those two related in regards to the Earth's
Well, yes, it's all related.
chakras, or?
It's related to the electromagnetic field, the geomagnetic field of your world, and the changes that happen in that field for a variety of reasons. Sometimes the idea of a physiological seismic expression will make alterations in the field. Sometimes alterations in the field will bring about a seismic expression.
So in this recent event that took place in April, how did that affect human beings vibrationally?
Well, it depends upon the human beings.
Okay, makes sense.
I know, that's why I said it.
So will there be other changes
Of course there will.
in regards to the Earth's?
Of course there will.
Will there be any time relatively soon?
Relative is a relative term.
Within this year?
There may be, and on into the idea of your 2016, 2017, all the way up to 2020, several of these kinds of incidents.
Great. All right. Thank you so much.
But again, this is all part and parcel of shifts within your consciousness. Remember, you're not actually changing the world you're on. The changes you make within yourself shift you to another version of a parallel Earth that's already more representative of the change you made within your own state of being.
So this past June, the beginning of June, there seemed to be, I perceived a vibrational change.
Yes.
Was that just within me, or was there some vibrational change that happened within the?
Well, both.
Was
And again, that vibrational change within you shifted you to a parallel version of Earth. And remember, you are shifting through parallel versions billions of times a second. But the major changes, what you perceive as major shifts, are simply in your consciousness greater differences in the shift. You all shift at the same rate all the time, billions of times a second. When you notice the shift in a specific and relevant way, it's because the shift you've created has created a greater difference in where you shifted to than before. So you notice it. But the rate of shift never changes. Yes?
Yes.
Make sense?
Yes, it does.
So when you notice them, that's a sign that you have expanded your consciousness to be more aware of the shift you prefer, rather than simply going along again with the mass consensus shifts that look like relatively slow change. Oh, a little thing has changed, a little thing has changed, a little thing has changed, a little thing has changed. And then you can go, oh, a big thing has changed. And you can skip over some of those intermediate shifts, in a sense. Skip over what the mass consensus general average shift experience is by allowing yourself to leap ahead in a way. Make sense?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Does this help you?
It does. Thank you.
All right. All of you, please just remember that the more you're willing to align with your true vibration now, that means the more willing you are to wake up, and then you will not necessarily need to shake yourselves awake. Yes? All right.
Greetings, Bashar.
And a you good day.
Thank you for coming to Vegas.
Well, I'm not in Vegas, but I understand the sentiment.
Is your ship
It's
still
above Sedona. Yes.
Broadcasting,
Yes.
in a sense?
Yes.
I have a question. It's kind of personal. I've been...
Personal to you
To
or
me,
to us?
to me.
Oh, all right.
Hopefully other people see the same thing I am. I don't know.
Speak up.
I have I've been seeing like lights in the sky. I'll see a flash and then
Yes.
I'll look in that direction and
Yes, yes, yes.
stare and see if it's a plane. Sometimes it is, and
Yes.
a lot of times it's not.
Yes.
Uh,
Well, you remember that one of the symptoms of the expansion of consciousness in this age of awareness is beginning to be able to perceive energies on higher frequencies that were heretofore invisible to your senses. So this is going to be one of the common symptoms that many of you will experience as you expand your consciousness.
okay. So that same situation actually happened in a room in my house. I was
Yes.
staring in the room,
Yes.
the darkened room, and it was a flash of light.
Yes.
It's-
Happening within the rewiring of your brain is also causing what you would call internal illuminations in your optic nerve.
okay.
Can be several different things.
Also, the sacred circuitry
Yes.
that you exercise you had, is that something you need to do once?
It's a permission slip.
A
You
permission.
decide
Okay.
how it works for you.
Awesome. I forgot what other questions I had, but
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Maybe you answered them all.
Maybe.
All right.
Thank you.
You'll find out.
Hello, Bashar.
And you a good day.
I'm Kasank, and I have a question about history and time.
Yes.
So we live in 3 dimensions
You
of
live in
space
4
and-
dimensions.
Okay.
3 of space,
And
1
one
of
at
time.
time. Correct.
I
So-
know, that's why I said it.
So my understanding is that the past, present, and future all exist simultaneously.
Yes.
So is the past an absolute, or is it ever changing? Is it
It's
a mass
ever-changing.
Is it a mass consensus agreement? The past,
It
or
can be,
it can be.
but it doesn't have to be.
Doesn't have to be. So then my question specifically is regards to suffering with, say, for example, Jews in the Holocaust, African Americans with slavery.
Yes.
Is that a consensus agreement, or is that an actual history, or is that an agreement?
Well, it's both. It's this and that, not this or that. Obviously, anything you can imagine is somewhere a reality because you can't imagine non-reality.
Correct. Okay.
I know. So the idea simply is, what reality are you perceiving based on the state of being you're in?
Okay, let's say, for example, that I'm a chain smoker and I'm not, and I decide to stop.
You're smoking chains.
And I decide to quit.
Yes.
So does that mean that my history changes because do I shift into a new?
It can mean that.
Okay.
You can do it that way. That's what we have referred to as the 13th step. If you can wrap your mind around the understanding that when you change yourself in any way, you actually literally are a different person. And that means if you're a different person, you have a different history. Then that means that if you actually stop, just to use your word, and find that you have no urge at all to do it, that may actually mean you've become a person who didn't stop smoking. You've become a person who never did.
Awesome. Okay.
And that's why the urge isn't there.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, that totally does. Yes.
But you have to be very aware of whether or not that's actually what you have defined yourself to be.
Okay. Does that mean I'm shifting to a parallel?
Absolutely. You're shifting your focus to another parallel version of yourself in this example that never smoked.
Okay. So let me ask you this. So if that is the case,
Yes.
then the history of like Hiroshima,
Yes.
the Holocaust, the
Yes.
slavery,
Yes.
that doesn't have to exist, is what you're saying.
It all exists. It doesn't necessarily have to be part of your history experience in terms of the effects. Nevertheless, you can still be aware of those things and still do what you need to do for yourself. It doesn't always mean you have to erase certain things from the idea of your history in order to be able to move forward in the way that you prefer to. If you shift and you're still aware of those things as part of what you call your history, then it may mean that those things don't have to leave your mind in order for you to do what you need to do. If for some reason it is absolutely relevant that those things are not a part of your history, then you would never even know they existed. if you shifted to a history where they didn't exist for you, you would also never know they ever existed as anyone's history.
Is that possible?
Yes. In fact, I'll tell you this. Many of you do this all the time. The history that you think you remember right now wasn't necessarily the history that was here a moment ago, but you'll never know that. Do you understand?
Yes.
Because you're making the new history your history, it will completely erase from your perspective any other history having happened, because it wouldn't make sense. So when you shift and you do create different histories all the time, from this perspective in physical reality, you're never going to know what history was here a moment ago. But you've had a multitude of histories you now know nothing about.
But you remember a different time stream in history. You remember a different history.
You remember a different history, and therefore you will never know what history was there before.
Gotcha.
Make sense?
Makes
So
sense.
the history you remember right now is the history you're creating from the present. And a moment ago, this wasn't your history.
Oh, deep. Okay. Okay, my last question. So those...
I'll give you an example if you wish.
Sure. Yes, please.
And I'm going to come at this from a little bit from the consensus reality point of view, just because that's the subject we're on today.
Okay.
One moment. We're scanning the timelines. In 1996, or what you call or remember as 1996, you shifted your history to such a degree that the history that was different before you shifted in 1996 was different to the degree, just to give you one example, that your President Kennedy was still alive up to 1984. You understand what we're saying now?
Yeah.
Previous to 1996, or what you remember as 1996, you had a different history in which President Kennedy was alive until 1984.
Mm-hmm.
But now you don't remember that history.
Oh, okay. Deep.
You see what we're saying?
Yes, yes.
You
Definitely.
now have a history where he died in 1963.
Wow. Okay. So, with that, my final question is, those victims of these atrocities, how can they, because some people are still suffering from the Holocaust, the African Americans are suffering from police brutality.
Yes.
How do they transcend that? Is that by shifting
It
to
can
a new
always
reality?
be transcended by understanding that no matter in your world be learned, if only the lesson of learning how to ensure that they never happen again. Make more positive choices. Learn from the things you don't prefer in your society how to create a different society that you do prefer. That's how you can use these things in a positive way. Anything negative can be used in a positive way if you're willing to. And if you're willing to understand that the fact that they occurred in a negative way can be used as a lesson, if only to teach you to not do that again,
Okay,
if you don't prefer it.
So then can those groups then have a mass consensus to where they're in racism, sexism, and
Of course they can.
anti-Semitism? And,
Of course they can, because you have mini mass agreements within the overall mass agreement.
okay,
So groups can have their own experience, as well as individuals can have their own experience within the mass consensus.
and that can shift to a different reality.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
And it does all the time.
Awesome.
It's just, again, that if many of you are choosing to experience certain things because sharing that history will give you an opportunity to work with each other in a certain way and to help each other in a certain way make more positive changes, then you'll all agree to maintain that kind of common history in order to do that. Yes?
Yes.
All right. Does that help?
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Thank you. Is it your time for refreshment?
12:20. It can be, or if you want to do a question, you can. What would you prefer?
We would prefer that you go and ease your grumbling tummies.
Did you just like tap in and see how many people in the room were hungry?
Yes. How many of you are hungry? Speak up.
Yeah.
There you go. Enjoy your refreshment break. We will resume the transmission afterwards. Good day.